Where are your leads coming from? And are you meeting them where they're at? I think a lot of it comes down to metrics. And if you're going to grow a business, then you need to be making decisions that are aligned with where you want your numbers to go. Number one, be a good steward of your time. So be doing regularly what I call a time audit. Where is your time going? Does it align with that bigger vision, like we talked about a few minutes ago, right? So is your time being spent in ways that are going to get you closer to creating that business you want?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Cam Hemphill here, your host for Medical Millionaire. Hey, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to tune into the podcast. Our goal is to give incredible value and insight for practice owners. So if you're thinking about becoming a practice owner, you already own a practice, you're looking to scale, everything that we bring in these episodes, guys, they're 100% designed for you and to help take your practice to the next level. I have an incredible guest on today. Her and I have been chatting over the past month. It was actually hard to get on her calendar, guys. And she's been coaching women, men for years. She's wrote a book. She's an incredible speaker. She has her own podcast. I'm going to welcome Andrea Liebross to the show today. Andrea, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, before we jump in, and normally I know you're busy, but it's I'm going to hammer you with questions. I know you've helped so many people from coaching, mindset, how to delegate tasks, money, marketing, really how to become a CEO and how to run your practice as a CEO and kind of what's holding people back. So do us a favor before I just start going into that. Help us understand more about your background. What led you to become a coach? Because you don't just start off as a coach. You have to go through a lot of shit. You have to have a tremendous amount of scar tissue to become a coach, right? And so walk us through that. I'm curious to understand that.
Yeah, you do have to go through a lot. That's true. So I think what got me to where I am today, obviously it wasn't just one thing, right? It was a lot of things put together. But the last role I played kind of under a corporate umbrella was I was recruiting and hiring and training. Those are their words, recruiting, hiring, and training. New, what I would call franchise owners. They didn't call them franchise owners, but that's sort of what we were doing. I stayed there for 10 years. I was one of them originally, but I stayed under this corporate umbrella for 10 years. And when I left and assessed, like, hey, why did I stay and why did I leave? The answers led me to the business I've built over the last 8 years. And what I realized was I left because all of my, we'll call them in air quotes, great ideas, they were labeled as great ideas, but they never came to fruition. And I became really frustrated by that. So that was kind of like a start there of me identifying big thinking. Okay. And the corporate, they kind of wanted to stay in the box. Play it safe. Oh, we've done it this way for 100 years, so we're still going to keep doing it, right? So that was their game, and I didn't want to play their game anymore. And then second piece of that is I was there for 10 years. So what was going on there? And I realized what I really loved about what I did was helping these new business owners through what I would now dub the messy middle. And that's when you have your business is happening. You're all in. You're profitable. People are knocking at your door. And then you, as the owner, it starts to feel very heavy, kind of messy. You start to question, should I even be doing this? Am I doing it wrong? I can't keep doing it this way. It's taking away time from my family. Or I'm realizing, I'm wearing all the hats and I can't hack it anymore. So helping those business owners kind of get through the messy middle. So the book I wrote, it's called She Thinks Big, The Entrepreneurial Woman's Guide to Moving Past the Messy Middle and into the Extraordinary. And that's kind of where it all came together. That's how I when I left and I figured that out for myself, a friend said to me, you've really just been coaching for 10 years. And I said, okay, I guess you're right. Like I hadn't really looked at it like that, but that's kind of what led me to do this. And then I went through all the certifications and all the other things. But being my own business owner and then helping others, that's what led me to where I am today.
I love it. I love it. I mean, you have to go through these. You have to go through the journey. You have to go through life, and you have to find yourself in these type of situations to have the story that you have and to be able to impact so many people that walk around and want to make a difference. And I have so much sympathy for that. I've actually been in that same exact position historically in my life. These are great ideas. Those are great ideas. Send an email and let's have a meeting around it. Yes. And it's just look, sometimes those ideas get executed. And I'm talking from a corporate standpoint, back on what you were saying earlier, but most of the time they don't, and it's a complete waste of time. You have an idea. It's truly a breakthrough. It's not just an idea. It's more of a, hey, here's our options. Like, let's go execute. And you get too many personalities in the way. You get too many people with opinions in the way. It's this slow moving snail type approach. And you find yourself in a situation where like, I don't know how much more I can help contribute to your cause if you're not taking my ideas, taking action and implementing them. And so I understand that. I've completely been there. And a lot of times that's what's cool about being an entrepreneur is you can move much faster.
Yes.
You can make decisions quick, which also brings you to a position. Did I make the right decision? Did I make the wrong decision? Am I moving too fast? Should I consult somebody? Should I hire somebody? I get that side of it too. And then eventually you become, if you are around, long enough. And I always look at entrepreneurship as the last person standing. If you can continue to hack it.
Yes.
And, your business might get so big and sell it. And eventually you'll be back in that room again to where that's a great idea. I've been on that journey too, and it's very, very interesting. And so I can completely understand that. And, the fact that you've been coaching for as long as you have and helping people, it's amazing. And so one of the things that I see from entrepreneurs, and we're talking entrepreneurs that own practices, want to own practices, have a strong clinical background, but truly need help understanding that they are an entrepreneur. They are a practice owner. They have to make decisions. And they get themselves in a position to where they do get stuck. They question themselves, just like what you were saying. And I have a question for you. It's like, what is the biggest, from a mindset blocking standpoint, holding entrepreneurs back from scaling their practice, right? How can they start to break through it today? Is it the why? Is it the purpose? Talk to us about that.
So I think there's a couple things, but why do they get stuck? So that was kind of your question. Why do they get stuck? I think what happens is that we get stuck in the day-to-day, in the to-do list, right? So we see with our eyes what is right in front of us, what needs to get done, right? Or we get an alert on our phone and then our brain's off to something else, right? We get really stuck in the day-to-day, all right? And that doesn't allow or give us the space to think about what we really need to be doing on a bigger scale that aligns with where we want to go. So I always start out when I work with my clients, I do what I call a vision into action intensive. And I use that terminology very intentionally because you do have a vision. Like you started this practice or you're thinking about starting this practice with a vision of what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. You definitely probably have a why. Okay. It doesn't have to be even elaborate, but there's something out there. And you're not just thinking on day one, you're not just thinking about day one, you're thinking about where you want this thing to be in 10 years, probably. And it's super fuzzy. That 10-year picture can be really fuzzy. It can be like a Renaissance painting on a wall. Doesn't have to be specific. Okay. But as you get into the day-to-day, you start to lose track of that vision. And I always ask, I say, okay, if I'm doing some speaking, like who has a to-do list? Everybody raises their hand. How many things are on that to-do list? Oh, I get 10, 20, right? Whatever. And I say, if you look at that list, how many of those things are really going to get you closer to that vision that you have of where you want to be in 3, 5, or 10 years? And then I just look at people's faces. Well, not many. Or they say, well, this one thing, it's been on the list. I just keep moving it from day to day or week to week or month to month. And I just kind of like never get around to it. And I know like that would be something that would move the vision closer, but it's just going to take time and money and energy and probably some more people. And I don't know. I just haven't gotten there. So I think what gets in the way of, or what keeps us stuck, are those daily to-dos. And what moves us out of that is by continually assessing, are our actions aligned with our vision? And what's the why behind all the things that we're doing on a daily basis? It's not really about the action. It's really about your thoughts. Like, are you in the headspace? Can you keep yourself in the headspace to think bigger, to go after like that thing that keeps moving from day to day? It's not a checkbox thing. I will bet you money. It's something that has tentacles and parts and has to probably get planned and talked about. Can you keep yourself in the headspace to explore what that is really all about? And it's hard. It's hard. This is hard work. Like, so this is the hard work. Like, this is harder than serving the client that walked through the door or finding the new customer. This stuff, keeping yourself in that entrepreneurial mindset, is super challenging. So
it is challenging. It's, you have this to-do list. Whether you're opening up a practice, there's a tremendous amount of things you have to do. Find a location, find a marketing company, spin up an Instagram feed, like whatever it is, right? Buy product, inventory, hire providers. Or if you have, it's like, I think that is actually less challenging than when you have a practice that's doing $1 to $2 million a year in revenue.
I would agree.
You have it's the starting, right? So you have this start to-do list, and that also can equate to the vision that you had. Hey, I got to get here to complete the vision that I had. I think like, and you'll have to give me your opinion on this, but I'm speaking for myself. I've built a few companies that, that done pretty well, 7-8 figures. I found myself in those shoes. And I know practice owners do as well. When your business starts to get 1, 2, 3, 4 million, and you haven't fired yourself from objectives, you almost become the administrator if you're not careful.
Yeah. So I talk about this a lot with my clients. So I look at any business, and there's 5 levels, or 5 roles rather, in every business. There's the doer. Okay. Then there's the implementer, a manager, a leader, and a visionary. And when you get to that, say, 7-figure mark, if you're still playing all of those roles, or have your hand, I mean, at that point, hopefully you've got other people on your team, but if you're still got your hand in all of those things, you cannot do what only you can do, which is really the leader or visionary aspect, right? So you're still kind of stuck in the weeds, and that slows you down. And that doesn't even allow you to lead this company further. Like you're too down there in that lineup of roles. But sometimes it's hard letting go of things. Other times you're realizing it's going to take time and money and people to let go of things. And that can be a fear. Can I afford it? Is it worth it? Yada, yada. Right. So we kind of are like our own worst enemy. And we're playing all of those roles. And that doesn't lead to the growth or scale that you once envisioned.
Yeah. It's 67% of all practices are owned by single providers in the medical aesthetic space, aesthetics primarily. Okay. And this is a data report that MedSpa published. And the average medical aesthetics practice does about 1.4 million.
Okay.
So it's like you have a big chunk of the market that is producing a 7-figure business. But where I see them really struggle is getting to the $3 million business.
Yep.
And it's because they are practice owner, provider ran practices that build up a great clientele, very loyal patients, have a good brand. They're pretty good marketers. They have some tools and some systems, but they are the ones that are putting in the hours face to face with the patients. And I've had a lot of conversation with practice owners, and where they struggle is delegating that provider-patient relationship to another trusted provider. And you guys, for the audience, you guys need to really start thinking that. So if you're sitting at If you've been in practice for a few years and you're doing 1.5 to 2 and you're happy with that, all good. That's like that's all your deal. But if you're thinking about ways to get to 3, 4, 5, 6 million, there is a playbook, and like look at it. Like take her advice. If you fire yourself from, maybe you're doing eight appointments a day, 8 hours a day of appointments. How do you have the time to focus on the end? How do you have time to focus on the administrative tasks? Like, you're going to burn out. If you can hire a provider, bring them in, coach them under you, right? Get them well positioned, cut that time in half. Now you have 4 hours of time to focus on the vision, to focus on why you're there, the passion, what your next game plan is, and really map that out. And here's where I think they get stuck. And you coach way more than me. I just have, this podcast and have built some companies in the medical side space. But I think like they start to get comfortable making this certain amount of income.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't see that there's even like another possible level there, right?
That's right. It's like, well, I got to hire a provider. They're going to cost money. It's going to take income away from me. And they've already built up this lifestyle that is expensive. And so if you can keep your lifestyle under wraps and hire that provider, and you want to create time. And if you buy your time back, you can easily get to that $3, $4, $5 million breakout.
Yes. So I think what's interesting is I just had a client do this. She was debating hiring another provider, right? So, but it was exactly what you just said. But then I'm going to have to pay them a salary, and then, or whatever, however they're structuring payout. But that's going to take away from the bottom line. So I said to her, put into Chat GPT, talk about a little AI, put into Chat GPT, what would you be able to do? What revenue would you be able to generate if you hired another provider? And the answer that Chat GPT came back with was amazing. Definitely, I'm friends with Chat GPT on this one. And it really showed her what was possible and what other things she could be doing with her time, which could be actually growing the business more. Like if she were, be playing more of the marketer role, right? And developing relationships in the community to bring more patients in, like that's going to grow the business more than her being in her provider room for 8 hours a day. Right. But it's really hard for someone to see that. So I think though, another piece of this is systems. So have you developed enough systems as the sole provider? Are they fleshed out enough that you could explain to someone else how you do things and why you do them? That takes time, energy, and money. And that's also scary too. Like no one's going to do it my way. Right? Well, no one is. You are unique and you are doing it your way, but they can do it a version of your way. Right? You just have to provide them with the some systematic kinds of thinking. And then, okay, but they're never going to get to that 3 or 4 million if they don't take that leap. And that's kind of where this big thinking thing comes in too. So I always say, like, go become friends. You have a new friend. Go become friends with future you. So that's like you 3 years from now. Okay, what is you 3 years from now doing? And I want you to think of that future you with a big smile on her face. Okay, so she's definitely happy. What is she doing? She's taking vacation and she's got 3 locations and things work like clockwork in her business. Okay, what would she tell you to do today? Like, ask her for some advice. And I mean, the answer is always like, of course, hire the other provider, or, get yourself out from behind the chair, as sometimes people call it, right? That future you knows the answer. And that is one of the tenets of big thinking. I say there's 5 tenets of big thinking. And one of them is to consider your thought options. Like, how else could you think about things? And future you has a whole other way to think about things.
Yeah, I like how you break that down, because I was just doing it as you were talking, right? As you start to look at yourself 2 or 3 years later, like, I hope I'm not doing the same thing I'm doing today.
Right.
But the noise will keep you there, right? The to-do list, you doing the same thing over and over and over again will keep you where you currently are, right? And so I love that. I'm sure everybody gives you the same answer. Well, I'm going to be happier. I'm going to have more locations. This thing's going to run like clockwork. I'm certainly not going to be serving 12 patients every single day and just continue to burn out, right? At some point, I want to hire that provider, that front desk person invest in that piece of tech so everything becomes automated. And, you're right. It's like, guys, if you don't start to fire yourself from certain objectives, and I think like one of the things that I could help out on this specific episode today is write down what you're doing every single day. And then how many hours you're focusing on what you're doing. And is that contributing to that goal? Is there anything on that list that's going to help you get to that point to where you see yourself in those 3 years? Right? Because
Right.
what I see it all the time. I'm on Instagram. I follow so many providers. A lot of providers follow me. In the aesthetic industry, owners often are the brand, right? They often are the brand. It's like injector person this, injector person that, and which is great. Like you have to brand yourself. I totally get that. But you guys, you need to start thinking how you can move from being the technician to being the true CEO. Totally. So as you're coaching them, like what are like leaning on that for us a little bit.
Yeah. So I talk about like this, what's your CEO mindset? Like, are you showing up as a CEO? And a lot of providers don't think of themselves as CEOs. Like this is like, I'm not a CEO. Well, really? Like who is then? Who is the CEO of your business? And I think why sometimes this is hard if they don't think of themselves as a CEO is because they're still sweeping the floor at night. And CEOs don't sweep the floor at night, right? So, okay, no wonder you're having a hard time like putting that CEO kind of hat on because you're still doing all of the things, which brings me to another point. So earlier on today on a coaching call, a client said to me, okay, so I want to get to this next level. What do you think I need to do? Like, what are my next best steps? Let's talk about this. What do I need to do? Tell me. So, okay. I can give you some things I think you need to do. Sure. However, I think a better question to ask yourself is, what do you need to think in order to get to that next level? Or if you want to go a little deeper, what do you need to believe in order to get to that next level? So I kind of pushed her on this and she said, I need to believe that I'm capable of growing this business. I need to believe that there are enough patients, clients, customers out there that want my services. I need to believe that I can manage effectively. So there's all these things that are like, I believe I can grow a brand. She came up with, I think, 5 different beliefs. And I said, all right, what if those beliefs kind of now became your to-do list? So instead of a to-do list, you had a to-believe list. And if you had a to-believe list, those to-dos, those actions, those next steps are going to sort themselves out. Like they're going to come to you. It's going to be really easy. So if you thought that you could have 2 locations, you're going to get really busy looking at commercial real estate. That's what you're going to be doing. Okay. If you believe that there's enough people in your area for you to find you and use your services, then you're going to kick up your marketing efforts, right? So that to believe list should really become the to-do list. I mean, that I think is key. And it's hard staying there. It's hard staying in that space because all of a sudden someone's going to come in and complain about something, or someone's not going to show for their appointment and give you a hard time that you charge them a no-show fee. Okay. And then all of a sudden you're like back into I don't know. This is horrible. Right?
You're good. You're really good. So, the believe list. I need a believe list. I think we all could use a believe list.
Yeah. Let's do it.
That's so true. I mean, it just takes this, your level of thinking in a completely different angle versus the interruption of noise in the day-to-day to-do list that's never ending. And I think that obviously, guys, as you're working with your patients day to day, give them, that one-on-one time that you have with them is absolutely critical. But if you find yourself not having the time in the day and you're just at max capacity, like your utilization rate's out of control, and why don't you take time to just take a step back and remove a couple appointments from the week to focus on this believe list? And I know, and Andrea knows, that you're going to put yourself in a situation to where you're focusing on the long-term objectives and having the energy to do it and the time to do it, and put yourself in a situation to where you're ultimately going to grow your practice and have that breakthrough, right?
You have to give yourself the space to do this type of thinking. And I think setting supports up around you to allow for that to happen is crucial. So that means everything from being a better delegator and having the right people on your team, but also to giving yourself support. So that could look like a coach or a mentor, or where in your week or month have you carved out time to really, I mean, as my husband would say, put pen to paper on this and get it down. So like, I think sometimes when I'm even working with my coach, I mean, that's like, I have set aside that hour to do this kind of thinking. I'm like sort of buying that space for myself. Otherwise, I would find 52 other million things to do. I am 100% sure of that. One of those 5 tenets of big thinking is you need to secure support. I don't know anyone out there who we could put in air quotes is successful or tremendously successful who doesn't have support around them. And it's support that's going to drive you to take massive action. Podcasts. I mean, I'm big on podcasts, clearly, like I have my own, and here I am on yours. All right. Mm-hmm. Books. Also love books. I wrote one and read a lot of them, but that's like passive action in a way. Yeah. That's just absorbing info. Have you set up space for you to take massive action, to do some like really deep work? So one of the 5 tenets too is take massive action. I use this acronym TRUST, TRUST. So you need to have thought options, which we talked a little bit about. R stands for real problem. And here's another like breakthrough. You don't have a problem. Like, the only problem you have right now in growing this business is you don't want to experience a negative feeling. Like, there is no real problem. You just don't want to feel, you don't want things to be hard. You don't want to feel guilty, right? You don't want to challenge yourself. That's the only problem. And then U stands for embracing the unknown or uncertainty. Like, are you okay if you open that other location and you're not really sure how it's going to turn out? Like, there's some uncertainty in that. And then S is secure support, and T is take massive action. But you've got to stay in that type of headspace in order to get unstuck.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to so many people that read books, audios, podcasts. They listen to them on their walks or workouts, whatever. And unfortunately, there's a ton of unaction that comes out of the amazing content that people push out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It frustrates me. I think sometimes people almost overconsume instead of just focus on, there's certain books that I've read, but there is one book in particular, I think I've read it 10 times. And I learned something new every time I read it. And it puts me back in this space of like, oh my gosh, I took this action from reading this material and this changed my life forever. A lot of it's around financials, like how to study, becoming a financier, how to really learn about money and investments and managing assets, right? How to save, how to invest, how to build capital. That was for me. And so you can consume the material, but if you don't take, like you said, massive action on the material you consume, it's like dead weight. It's just like going into your head and almost like there's kind of no point. Besides, I guess, just telling your friends and colleagues, I read this great book. You should read it. Cool. What did you get from it? Right?
Yeah. And I hear people saying, I'm doing all the things. Like, I don't know why this isn't working. What are you doing? Well, I took this course and I read this book and I listened to that. And I did. Yeah, but what did you do? Or better yet is, how did that change your thinking? Like, has anything changed? Have you thought about anything a different way? Well, I mean, I got a lot of ideas, but nothing's happening.
Happening. Well, and I think like you said something too about guilt, right? They feel there's this guilt can hold someone back. And I think let's look at that when you're delegating, right? And I think as an entrepreneur, as you start to delegate activities or conversations with your patients, to-dos, whatever, you start to delegate these, there's this guilt that builds up, but you may do it wrong. So even when they know they should delegate, how can they overcome the guilt of delegating?
Yeah, there is some guilt associated with delegating. That's so true. So, guilt, feeling guilty. Guilt is just a feeling. Okay, that's all it is. And we're humans and we are lucky to be able to feel all the things. But it's not a reason to not do something. And the other thing too is think about this. When you feel guilty, what action does that trigger in you? What are you doing or not doing when you feel guilty? And if you feel guilty, then maybe you're like, stop delegating. Okay. So if you stop delegating, then what result does that lead to? Well, that leads to you not having any time for anything else. So do you like that result? No. Okay, so if you want a different result, you've got to think in a different way. You've got to, instead of thinking, oh, delegating, I should be doing all this myself, or it's not going to be the same if I let someone else do it. Or I've also had, I want my staff to see me doing all the things that they do. I don't know if you've ever heard that one. That's one I heard this week. Like, I want them to know that I'm just like them. So I'm going to do it too. Okay. Well, that's kind of defeating the purpose. So you've got to have a different thought. You got to have a different thought. Like, hey, delegating is going to give me time, space, energy to do X, Y, and Z other things that are going to help grow the business. And delegating is also giving my team the opportunity to hone their skills in a different way. Okay. And then that guilt maybe turns into, it doesn't have to turn into excitement or positivity, but maybe it turns into just being like super neutral about it. Like, okay, this is the way it's just kind of like flatlined it. Like, okay. And then that's going to drive actions that are going to get you closer to your result. But guilt is just a negative feeling that we don't want to feel. And that's all it is. But you know how to do it. I always say, like, you know how to do guilt. You've done guilt, and it's usually fleeting too. It's like the 3 seconds of courage for the 3 days of success, right? Or ask the question for in 2 seconds to get 2 years of whatever. So can you work through it, man? Just work through it.
Yeah, I mean, guilt is like, yeah, you could feel guilty from delegating the task, or you could just take ownership of the task and remain within the guilt zone within yourself, right? It's like,
Correct.
something has to give here if you are in the position to want to scale and break through. And I don't think that there's a practice owner to date. I've been in the industry almost 11 years. I have yet to talk to a practice owner that is good where they are. I have not talked to a practice owner that is okay with where they are and they're happy with where they want to be. Every one of them wants to grow. I want to grow. I want to grow. I want to grow. I want to grow. So guys, this is stuff you're telling me, right? For the audience that's tuning in, you tell me this stuff. I've had thousands of phone calls with practice owners, and you talk a lot about this $1 million formula, right? And what does that look like for a wellness business? This is like a loaded question, but what does that look like? As you're talking about marketing, for example, we can talk a little bit about that on the formula aspect. This is a cash-based industry. I often said the best practice owners are the best marketers. That's like, people have to know who you are in order to come see you. That's where it starts. But from this $1 million formula, this intentional marketing play and scaling a service-based business, like, how should they look at that in your eyes?
I think they have to look at they kind of have to do some data-driven decision making, is what I like to call it. So you've got to really get in touch with not your financial numbers, yes, but also, where are your leads coming from, and are you meeting them where they're at? So I think a lot of it comes down to metrics. And if you're going to grow a business, then you need to be making decisions that are aligned with where you want your numbers to go. And also, you have to be willing to, the old adage, like, spend money to make money, but you have to increase your risk tolerance. You really have to increase your risk tolerance and ask yourself, my best question is always, what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? Like, so what?
Yeah.
Like, you decide to do mailers, and, from your tracking, you realize no one has come in because of that mailer. Now, that'll be really hard to measure all that, but, you spend money and you don't necessarily see a direct return. Okay, if that's the worst thing that can happen, that's not so bad. Right? So you've got to increase your risk tolerance, which means just getting comfortable with feeling all the feelings. That's all it is. Like confidence is your willingness to feel all the feelings. But $1 million business needs strong marketing. And that means you need to be willing to look at metrics and take risks and think bigger. Like, what would future you tell you to do? I mean, that's a great question.
Yeah, and I think if the practice owners start thinking at every avenue from a risk tolerance standpoint, right? Risk tolerance, you have to raise that. I totally agree. And when you do take risk, when you do decide to invest more in marketing, when you do decide to buy that product you've wanted, roll out that EMR, whatever it is that you wanted, right? Like enhance your online booking experience, hire that provider, whatever it is. You're investing, you're continuing. That's the mindset. You have to invest in learning, right? So like back to what you said, the mailer, okay, it didn't work. Well, now you know that like you took the time, you invested, you implemented it. Now you know what not to do. So actually you won there, right? You did win there, and I think like that's how you guys need to look at it.
You also have to really get good at assessing, is this a cost or is this an investment? Okay. So costs are things that are going to help you keep the lights on. Okay. So there are definitely some costs in having your own practice, right? No one's going to argue on that one. But if you're thinking about marketing, for example, there's a baseline cost to that, but most of it is an investment. Investments are things that are going to help you grow, right? So it's not just keeping the lights on and keeping us afloat. It's something that's going to help us grow. So implementing systems, those are investments. Hiring people, investments for the most part. Creating space for yourself or these support systems that I was talking about, investment. So you have to think about that. The investment those are growth generators, and being smart about identifying what's a cost versus an investment is a key in creating your growth or in staying in that headspace mindset of thinking bigger about what's possible. So I think that's a really good way to look at things. Is this a cost or is this an investment?
Yeah, and a lot of them do look at it from a cost standpoint. It's and when I really start to think about it, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand the practice owner's mind and looking at it through their lens. They have so much experience in clinical background education. They can run circles around me when it comes to anatomy, the body, everything. And I can run circles around them when it comes to business and KPIs and benchmarks and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And, I have to give it to you guys as practice owners or people that want to be practice owners, have to become a business owner, right? You have to start investing in understanding what becoming a business owner looks like, from marketing, finance, patient acquisition cost, retention rates. What is your utilization rate? What does it cost you to obtain a lead? You have to really start to double down on your investment to understand how to run a business successfully, because your practice is a business at the end of the day. Yes, you have this amazing clinical background. Shoot, you're artists. You're artists that can like make people look beautiful and give confidence. Like that is an amazing skill set. I wish I had that. And I think a lot of them, these practice owners are like, well, but I'm not a business person. Well, you are though, right? You are, and you have to start looking at things through that lens. And I can tell you right now, out of all the interviews I've had, the people I've talked to, the ones that start to invest on the business side of the practice are the ones that have the breakthrough. They hire the coach, they hire the marketing company, they go to conferences, they start to get really intentional about their time. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, and it's these patterns. And once I see the pattern, I see the success. And it's fun to have the conversation like 12, 18, 24 months after that original conversation and see them take action and see the rewards, right? And so, but it takes that investment and that risk tolerance truly to get you guys where you want to go.
100% agree with you on that and all the things.
I've really enjoyed having you on, and I think I could talk to you for hours. In fact, like I should hire you.
We could do that. We could do that. No, it's true though. You wear all these hats, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
The practice owners, you got into it probably, well, there's probably multiple reasons, but one of them is because you love what you do, and you can still love what you do and run an amazing business. Because now, unfortunately or fortunately, you are not just a provider, you are a business owner, a salesperson, a marketer, a manager. And I know you didn't all sign up to do all those things, but that was part of the package, the surprises, bonuses at the end.
Yes, you are. And it's like the word, one on there is like sales. I'm not a salesperson. That's like
Yeah,
below, that's below
no one's a
me. No one's a
salesperson. Exactly.
salesperson, right? No one wants to
I don't
admit
want to
it.
be pushy. I don't want to be pushy.
Yeah, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be, guys, instead of you're an educator, right? So
Mm-hmm.
by default, you give information because you have expertise, and that's what you are. So when you think of salesperson, start to think of a person that has expertise that's giving information to help your patient feel and look better. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
That's
And when
it.
they're going to your practice, like I know, because I've talked to you, a lot of you guys, I know that you are not giving them all the information they need. And as a result, they're not getting the result and the desired outcome that they're looking for. Right. So
Right.
that sales word is critical, and I would invest there too. So I got one question for you before we go. One more, but I may have two, but this is like a non-negotiable, right? So let's talk about habits just for a second.
Okay.
I have habits, daily routine habits. Like, my morning's pretty specific. And as I've studied entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs, I see a lot of habits that are formed, morning routines, non-negotiables. So what is a habit that you help coach when it comes to like a personal routine that keeps businesses on track for that
Mm-hmm.
end result they're looking for? What is one of those habits you can lean in on for us?
I think here's four things that I think you can lean in on. Number one, be a good steward of your time. So be doing regularly what I call a time audit. Where is your time going? Does it align with that bigger vision, like we talked about a few minutes ago, right? So is your time being spent in ways that are going to get you closer to creating that business you want? Second thing, be a really good steward of your money. Like, are you in the habit of looking at your financials, even if they make you cringe, or even if you think you're quote unquote not good at money, or even if you think you don't know what you're looking at? Have you invested in support to help you figure that out? But you've got to get in the habit of looking at your numbers. Third thing, people. Are you continuously, honestly, like auditing the people that you're associating with? Are they on your team, or are they just there because they've always been there? Do you have people that, yeah, you can commiserate with, but do you also have people on your team that are going to kind of call you out on things that aren't working, or point out, what might not be so obvious to you, but is obvious to everybody else, right? So the habit of doing kind of a people audit. And then I think the last thing is be a really good steward of your own energy. So are you in the habit of figuring out whether or not your energy you have enough, how to replenish it, and where it should go, assessing where it should go. So I think time, money, people, energy, you should have habits around all of those.
Well, that was an amazing answer and insight. I mean, that was very well said. And guys, I think like as you kind of build on that just for a second, energy is obviously super important. You got to have energy. You got to get up. One of the things that I do very regularly is I get up early and I have this routine that's a non-negotiable. My body moves. I eat healthy. My body moves. Continuously try to educate myself. For those of you that know me and have had conversation with me outside the podcast, you know that about me. And I think we've made some impact there. We've had people on that are financiers that they truly are financial specialists in the space of aesthetics. They know how to build out P&Ls, balance sheets, build out a framework with inside of QuickBooks and teach you about money. And as a business owner, you're working with money. You have expenses, you have income, you have taxes, you have all sorts of stuff. You have loans, you have debt, you have lease agreements. You have to start studying finance, right? And then a people audit. I mean, you said some brilliant things there, just absolutely brilliant. I think that there's people on your team that maybe you shouldn't be on the bus.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are very slow to fire people. And because they feel bad, there's this feeling, but are they, and not, it's like, are they holding me back or pushing me forward? Are they calling me out? People that call you out actually are there to probably, they care about you. And they care about the vision and the mission of the medical aesthetics practice, right? So you made some great call outs there. So I know you're super busy. I thank you so much for joining. I know that we had to book this like a month in advance. And so I appreciate that. So for the practice owners or the people that are tuning in that want to connect with you, want to follow you, want to read your book, where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Sure. First, I would encourage them all, like you were, I forget how we put this in, you said it a couple minutes ago, but set up a call. Like, I would love to talk to anyone. That call is complimentary. And if you don't walk away learning something, then I'll give you your money back, but there's no money to be exchanged. But just having conversations, I think, is one of the ways that I would love to connect with your audience. So you can go to Andrea's with an S, links with an S, andreaslinks.com. And right there, you can book a call. You can also, there's a link to my book called She Thinks Big. You can find that on all your favorite booksellers. My podcast, also She Thinks Big. You can listen to it wherever you're listening to this one. And social media, I'm mostly on LinkedIn and Instagram under Andrea Liebross or Andrea Liebross Coaching. So, yeah, but talk to people, like learn, and just go into it with who knows what you might find out.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I completely agree. I think, continue to talk to people, educate. Your net worth is your network, guys. Like, reach out to her. Her book is on Audible. It's on Amazon. She's got, a ton of reviews. There's a great book, and her Instagram is inspiring, and she has a wonderful website as well. So, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. Amazing insight. And, a lot of people from tuning in will get a tremendous amount of value, guys. So I'll leave it with one thing before I tune out is kind of the overall theme, guys, is when you listen to the podcast and the episodes, go take action, right? Go take action. Reach out to her. Read her book. There is so much gold and meat behind what she is trying to help practice owners do. And I'll leave it at that. It's up to you guys. You guys go take massive action. Until next time, happy injecting.